9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now live.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
morning, Westfield. It is 6:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
So, what did last night bring? Did we have any meetings? Anything televised?
Conservation went over 3 hours.
Oh, Lord have mercy. What on earth were they talking about for 3
Just about
hours?
everything. They had
Wow.
5 enforcement orders, a couple of RDAs, NOI. There was just a packed schedule.
Yeah.
My girlfriend was like, "Oh, do you think you might be free? We can go for ice cream after." I'm like, I looked at the agenda and I went, "Yeah, no.
No.
You'll be going to bed before I do."
Yeah. Now, were you able to do that from home?
Yeah, they're still on Zoom
okay.
for now.
Yeah, good. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Now, do they meet throughout the summer as well? Conservation?
Yes, because their
Okay.
stuff doesn't really end.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine why they wouldn't, but
And
there's always that hope.
I had another city councilor reach out to me yesterday about doing all of the meetings, every single one of them, and I'm like, hire me another full-time person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then find me lots and lots of storage because we're going to get sued a lot.
Okay. Now, why do you say that, Pete?
Because when you have a video record of somebody saying something offhand,
Yep.
that's not on the minutes, you open
Okay.
yourself up for all kinds of liability.
Okay. So right now.
It's already happened. I mean, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yep.
what you say actually means something.
Yeah. So right now, Pete, which are the meetings that are televised? Because obviously, City Council.
If it's on Zoom, I still televise it.
Okay.
City Council, Planning Board, and School Committee are the 3 that we normally do.
Okay. Okay. Well,
I mean, I'd like to add conservation, but they don't meet in City Council chambers, which starts a problem.
Where do they meet?
I think before the pandemic, they met in 201.
Oh, that's right. And now they're Zooming, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's a lot of meetings.
Well, if you had to
Meeting.
cover every meeting, A, you'd have to rely on the chairman to do it. And then B, you'd have to have somebody going around collecting all of them or babysitting them or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm one guy, and
Yeah.
I've had enough.
Yeah.
I'm done with the meetings. I'm sorry. I love the people dearly,
Yep.
and it's good work, and people
Yep.
should be more involved. And the other thing that I told the city council was, I'm looking on Zoom when I'm doing a meeting, and if you're not on the agenda, there's nobody there.
Yep.
One.
Right. Yep.
And then I look at the YouTube afterwards, and unless it's a super hot button issue, nobody
Yep.
watches them.
Right. Right. Right.
I'm going to be honest.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
There's no
absolutely.
demand before or after.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I think for the biggies, I think for council, there's definitely, because I always check in.
I think a lot of the stuff where a lot of stuff happens, and this is no slight to other boards and commissions, but conservation, planning, school committee, and city council are the boards where a lot of the work for the city happens.
Yep. Yep.
I'm just going to be honest.
Yep.
After attending all these meetings, this is where the bulk of the day-to-day nitty-gritty stuff happens.
I think committee-wise too, Pete, like on the council side, I think L&O and finance are probably the 2 that, that people have a vested interest in or sort of feel like they have a vested interest in.
Well, they're the most impactful.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
You know?
Yep. So, and tonight is Board of Health, right? Is that right?
They're canceled.
They're canceled. Oh, wow.
They're
Okay.
canceled.
Okay.
So, hopefully
Easy.
I have public safety communications, and I'm actually a commissioner on that one.
Okay.
So I had that meeting today, and I think there was one other one somewhere or something.
So, Pete, whatever happened with the public safety communications
Merger?
merging?
Still in the
what's
it's
going
still-
on with that?
It's still in process,
Okay.
but they take time.
I know.
And so we still exist as a
Sitting on-
board because they take time.
Yeah. Okay. So that I didn't know if something had happened, if they had decided they weren't going to do that, or
No, it's still
it's just part of
still-
the process.
Yeah, still in progress. There was a lot
Okay.
of work that needed to be done physically connecting the 2 towns.
Yep.
I know how to run a fiber line all the way to Southwick or the Southwick Police Station or Town Hall or both.
Okay.
So a lot of infrastructure work had to be done
Okay.
before they could complete the deal. So
Yep.
I knew that was going to happen. So
Okay. So nothing to worry about, nothing to be concerned about.
Yeah.
It's a go, but it's just, going to take a little time.
Yep.
Okay, so what did you do did you get together with your mom for Mother's Day? Anything happen
Yeah.
or just a phone call or?
No, I worked at Mount Holyoke during the day because
Okay.
they've been desperate for people.
Okay,
And then I went over to my brother's house and we had dinner.
nice.
Nothing fancy because my brother's wife, her son took her to the Bruins game.
Oh, nice.
Originally, they were going to go to the Red Sox game, and then Saturday night they said, "Wow, geez, I wonder if we can get tickets to the Bruins game."
Okay.
And they got them for $150. It was
Okay.
reasonable on the secondhand market.
Yep.
And so they went to a Bruins playoff game, which was really exciting, and the Bruins won. So
Yay! So good.
instead of freezing at the Red Sox game and
There
watching
it
a
is.
loss,
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
so they had a
Okay,
good
so it was
time, and
nice.
Mom had a good time, and
Good.
my brother took Mom to the casino during the day. And I guess they watched a movie and spent some time in the casino. And
Very cool.
yeah.
Good. Good
Yep.
for Mom. Well, I got a rain check from my daughter. I was supposed to get my
You
car.
did.
Well, and it was okay though. I was supposed to get my car washed, and we were going to go for a walk together because she had asked me what I really wanted to do, and I said, well, let's go for a walk because I'm always trying to get her to walk with me. And so she said, okay. And then she texted me. I texted her, I think Saturday, and I said, okay, just for my planning purposes, let me know when you want my car. And but the weather was so cold. So she said, so she texted me on Sunday morning and she said, okay, Mom, do you mind taking a rain check? Because it's really too cold to wash your car and it was windy and everything. And I thought, yeah, I get
Yeah.
it. But she had 3 finals this week and she has one of her professors. She's taking this bio class she's trying to get into the vet tech program up at
Okay.
Holyoke Community. She just finished last night. She just finished her vet assistant program, which is just a certificate program. It's a 1-year certificate. She took her final last night, so she's all set with that, did really well. She's trying to get into the vet tech program, and she had to take a bio class, like a med bio class, in order to get into the program. She has all the other prerequisites. So she's been taking this class, which is rather grueling, and she has a professor that's a little bit all over the map with last minute stuff. So Grace said she just threw at them over the weekend that, oh, by the way, your final is cumulative. Well, I've taught at the college level. That is not something you throw out at your students the last minute. Cumulative means
Finals, the entire semester.
it's the entire semester. And so I think she got a little freaky about that one. And then she also has a bio. She has she has a lab for that. So she has 2 finals for that class. So she was getting a little, and then she had her final for her. So she had 3 finals. She has another one. I think one is today. She took one yesterday. She has her lab today. And then the other one is next Tuesday. So she was getting a little freaky out, and she said, Mom, can we do a rain check on the walk? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I said, that'll give me something to look forward to. We'll do that, within the next couple of weeks. And hopefully, I said, the weather will be warmer, which, of course, we know it will be. So that was nice. It was fine, and I get it. And certainly don't want to put any pressure or anything. So I said, I got that one in the bank, so that's kind of okay with me. So, yeah. And my brother-in-law, Gary's brother, is so good about always, every Mother's Day, wishing all of his sisters and sisters-in-law and, everything. Happy Mother's Day. So
There you go.
It was nice. Yeah. And Gary made me a nice, what do we have? Oh, he did steak on the grill. He went to the to the butcher shop and got some steaks and
Nice.
some potato salad and macaroni salad and stuff. So it was nice. It was a nice day. It was a nice afternoon. I appreciated
Nice.
that. Yeah. All right, so today is May 11th. So we have, this one really should have been like on Bob Plass's show because it's the birthday of the late Irving Berlin. And, this is just like so Bob Plass, but just happened to fall on my day, not Bob. So May 11th, the late Irving Berlin songwriter was born in 1888 in Russia. He lived to be 101 years old. I didn't realize Irving Berlin was a centenarian. He died September 2nd, 1989, at the age of 101. He was born in the village of Tyman, Russia. His family fled to escape the region's persecution of the Jewish community and settled in New York City in the mid-1890s. As a teen, Irving Berlin worked as a street singer. And by 1906, he had become a singing waiter in Chinatown. A few years later, Berlin would become a lyricist for the music publishing company Watterson and Snyder. He released a major hit in 1911 with Alexander's Ragtime Band. Berlin was diligent in his writing efforts and was a self-taught pianist. By the second decade of the 20th century, he had dozens upon dozens of songs under his belt. Irving Berlin would go on to compose more than 1,500 songs and score dozens of musicals and films. Among his best-known big screen works were Puttin' on the Ritz, that was in 1929, Alexander's Ragtime Band, which was in 1938, Easter Parade, that was 1948, and 3 Fred Astaire and Ginger Roger films, including Top Hat, which came out in 1935 and featured the song Cheek to Cheek, and Follow the Fleet in 1936, which featured Let's Face the Music and Dance, and then 1942's Holiday Inn showcased Bing Crosby singing White Christmas, which would become the highest-selling tune in history. Irving Berlin shaped patriotic fervor as well with his composition of God Bless America, first sung by Kate Smith in 1938, and becoming an unofficial national anthem of the United States. After the war, Irving Berlin struck Broadway gold again with 1946's Annie Get Your Gun, inspired by the life of Annie Oakley. The smash musical starred Ethel Merman and featured a slew of popular songs like Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better, I Got the Sun in the Morning, and There's No Business Like Show Business. So happy birthday to the amazing, late, great Irving Berlin, songwriter, lyricist, and just really talented person.
Yep.
Who lived a long life. Amazing. You know what I was noticing, Pete, in today's, I grabbed today's Westfield News as I stopped in at the Senior Center this morning.
I did some digging.
Yeah,
and
what'd you do?
Buried in Mass Live, Jason Perron won.
He did?
627 to 544. Well, now we'll see what he can do.
Wow. So that was the election in Southwick, so he beat our own Joe Didi.
Yeah.
Wow. Did not see that one
There's
coming.
write-in votes, but they won't change the outcome.
Yeah. Wow. I know Southwick is small. That's a pretty low. Is that a low turnout? Did they say what the turnout was?
It's 9,000 residents.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Over 1,000. That's
Yeah. Well, of course, 9,000 residents includes kids, right? Non-voters. Is that right? Yeah.
I don't know how many
okay.
voters.
So I don't know how many voters are. Okay. Wow. Well, congratulations. And what's his first name? Perron. What's his first name?
He's a
Perron.
police officer.
I know he
Westfield.
is, but what's
Jason
his first
Perron.
Jason. Jason. Congratulations, Jason Perron.
Well,
Yeah.
now we'll see.
Now we will see. Yeah. And he said he didn't really have like a big agenda. I read the article in last week's Westfield News, and he said he was kind of running to give people an option, which, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
but
cool.
now you have to govern. And
Now you have to do something.
all those
yeah.
same people that propped you up to run, you're going to have to tell them no probably a lot.
Yes, I think that's really it's very interesting that you brought that up, Pete, because at the last couple of city council meetings, I noticed that Councilor Mello had, Kristen kind of ran on the whole water cleanup PFSA, is that right?
PFAS.
AS issue. And, it's very interesting because she has commented publicly in, kind of talking about why she was voting a certain way for a certain thing. And at one point, I remember she sort of addressed her supporters saying, I know you voted me in on this issue, and you expect that I'm going to, stand on this particular issue in a certain way, but I'm not. And, I give her a lot of credit for saying, it's like, listen, you may think that you knew all about how I was going to vote on every issue, but, each issue stands on its own.
Councilor Babinski came to the same realization.
Yes. Yep.
And they all do at some point.
Exactly.
If they don't, then they usually don't last.
They don't last. Yeah, exactly. But, I think what they come to learn is that issues are not, most issues are not black and white. There's a lot of gray area there. You have to kind of figure out.
Well, if you do your homework, you realize it's not just a bullet point. And that's what I worry about all these first-time candidates. Mm-hmm. And I interviewed Jason, and I think he'll do okay.
Okay.
But you worry about that pressure from the same lady that eviscerated Joe. Mm-hmm. She's not going to like what Jason does. Mm-hmm. I guarantee it.
Yep.
And she's going to do the same thing to him, and he's going to be like, huh? And that's politics.
Yeah. Yep.
That's politics.
We'll see what happens. Sometimes people surprise you. We'll see how the whole thing unfolds.
And Joe has a thriving business, so
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully he continues with the Civic Fund. I think he will because he is that kind of a guy.
I think so too.
He does a lot with the Civic Fund.
Yeah, he does.
He's kind of the driving force behind that. And I encourage Jason to really reach out to Joe and help him with that.
Absolutely. Yep, I agree.
You want to govern? Now you're going to govern.
Well, now you're here. Okay, let's see what you can do. All right, listen. It is 6:16. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We're going to take a short break. We're going to, in honor of the birthday of Irving Berlin, we're going to listen to a tune from Annie Get Your Gun. This is Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better.
And now, young lady, if you'll just step over there, I'll give you a lesson in marksmanship.
You couldn't give me a lesson in long-distance spitting. Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Anything you can be, I can be greater. Sooner or later, I'm greater than you.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I can shoot a partridge with a single cartridge.
I can get a sparrow with a bow and arrow.
I can live on bread and cheese.
And only on that?
Yep.
So can a rat.
Any note you can sing, I can sing higher.
I can sing any note higher than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Anything you can buy, I can buy cheaper. I can buy anything cheaper than you.
50 cents.
40 cents.
30 cents.
20 cents.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Anything you can sing, I can sing softer.
I can sing anything softer than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
I can drink my liquor faster than a flicker.
I can drink it quicker and get even sicker.
I can open any safe.
Without being caught?
Sure.
That's what I thought, you crook.
Any note you can hold, I can hold longer.
I can hold any note longer than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Yes, you can.
Anything you can wear, I can wear better. In what you'd wear, I'd look better than you.
In my coat?
In your hat.
In my shoes?
In your vest.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Anything you can say, I can say faster.
I can say anything faster than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, can't.
No, you can't.
Yes, can't.
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 Can. I can jump a hurdle.
I can wear a girdle.
I can knit a sweater.
I can fill it better.
I can do most anything.
Can you bake a pie?
No?
Neither can I.
Anything you can sing, I can sing sweeter.
I can sing anything sweeter than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
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 No,
Yes, I can.
Underwriting for WSKB's community radio programming is brought to you in part by R. Levesque Associates. They are offering landscape architecture, civil engineering, environmental permitting, and land surveying. RLA is a second-generation company devoted to excellence in the planning and design of outdoor spaces. On the web at rlaland.com or at 40 School Street in Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning.
From 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show.
Right here on WSKB 89.5.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:21. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So I was reading in today's Westfield News that all are invited to Mayor's bike ride taking place today. So May is Bike Month, as part of Bay State Bike Month.
Yes.
A month-long celebration of bicycling. Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail and Mayor Michael McCabe are inviting all Westfield residents to join the 13th annual Mayor's Bike Ride on Wednesday, May 11th. So this family-friendly ride begins at 5:30 today at City Hall. So you're going to meet at City Hall, which is 59 Court Street.
Oh, we'll see it from outside our window during our meeting.
Yeah, there you go. So police will escort riders to and from the Stop and Shop parking lot, where the ride will continue on the Columbia Greenway to the Shaker Farms parking area and then loop back. So this is roughly about a 6-mile round trip for those of you who are concerned about distance, riding at approximately 8 to 10 miles per hour. Rules of the Columbia Greenway are posted on the trail and will be followed. Helmets are recommended. Bay State Bike Month is hosted by Mass Bike to support a more bicycle-friendly Massachusetts. For more information, visit www.baystatebikemonth.org. So that's tonight. So all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, that's become a tradition now.
It has.
The Mayor's Bike Ride.
It has, yeah. It's kind of fun. Yeah, I think that's really cool. All right, so birthdays. I thought this was really neat because I'm always interested when somebody famous is born in Springfield, Massachusetts. So here's one for you, Pete. Mark Herndon, country music drummer, born on this date in 1955, so he's 67 years old today, was born in Springfield, Massachusetts. Mark Herndon's father was a Marine pilot, so he and his parents traveled all over the country most of Mark's life. They finally settled in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and that's kind of where Mark calls home. Herndon joined the country rock group Alabama at an opportune time. The group, operating as the house band at the Bowery in Myrtle Beach, had gone through several drummers, and they brought him on board in 1979. Randy Owen, one of the group's originals, was impressed by Herndon's hunger for success, and he officially started with the band Alabama on April 1st that year. Other group members were Jeff Cook and Teddy Gentry. Excuse me. Barely a year later, Alabama signed with RCA and challenged norms in the country music business, selling out arenas and appealing to college students with a sound that mixed Eagles harmonies, Waylon Jennings outlaw elements, and rock-tinged musical aggression. Hits include Roll On 18-Wheeler, Mountain Music, and Christmas in Dixie. Herndon was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame along with his former bandmates in 2005. As a licensed pilot, Mark currently enjoys aviation as well as motorcycles and traveling. So happy birthday to Mark Herndon, country music drummer for the group Alabama, born in Springfield, Massachusetts. Pretty cool, huh? Allergies are kicking in this morning. That's okay.
Allergies are brutal right now.
Between the itchy eyes and mine is, I'm always worse in the morning. Until
it settles.
Until everything kind of settles down. But that first, and I mean, I've been up for, what time is it? It's 6:25, so I've been up for a couple hours, but still. All right, today is Third Shift Workers' Day. So each year, oh my gosh, I know, Pete, I feel like this is so appropriate. Each year, National Third Shift Workers' Day on the second Wednesday in May recognizes the workers who face the night to keep businesses running, hospitals staffed, and streets safe. Many businesses require 24-hour attention. Whether it's a manufacturing facility in high demand or a processing plant that requires an overnight cleaning or cycle change, businesses function as efficiently as possible. However, not all third shifts are in businesses. Hospitals, first responders, and nursing homes work 24 hours a day too. Metropolitan areas of any size have employees working overnight to ensure the safety and reliability of water, power, and other infrastructure. The day honors all third shift workers, whether they rotate in and out of the shift or not. Regardless of their duties, the time of day they are performed can make life unusual and sometimes difficult. It recognizes their sacrifices, often missing special occasions, and even everyday events because they sleep while the rest of the world functions on a 9-to-5 schedule. And when they do attend meetings, celebrations, and other events, they are often sleep deprived. Many third shift workers choose to work the hours because their spouse works the opposite shift, making it possible for a parent to always be at home with the children. Or the choice is so that they can care for a loved one who is ill. Of course, other reasons are that it is the nature of the profession they choose. You know, when you choose to go into like healthcare and, you know, or like, you know, if you're a dispatcher, you know that there are going to be those nighttime shifts. That's just, you know, that's the nature of the game. But we do honor them today and really thank them because, boy, I'll tell you what, it is, it's not easy. I mean, Pete, you've done that, right? You've done third shift stuff.
Yep.
How difficult is it to kind of get your body in and out of sync? I mean,
if you stay in sync, then it's good. I know somebody who's did third shift their whole career at the police department.
Wow,
and
really?
Just lived his life on the third shift.
Yeah. Well, your body does adjust to that.
And didn't change on the weekends and things like that. Kind of, you know, slept at night.
Yep.
You know, like 4 to whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then was up during the day and just did that during the weekends too. And had to, you know, got used to it. But it's tough. I know people that work like swing shifts.
Yeah. Yep.
Where they're like 2 nights and 2 days, and that gets hard.
I don't know how people's bodies can adjust to that.
I did third shift at the police department. I did third shift at Channel 40.
Yeah.
I won't do it now.
Yeah. Yep.
At age 51, no freaking way.
Thank you, but no thank you.
I'll do it, you know, as a fill-in or something.
Mm-hmm.
If they really need help at Mount Holyoke, I'll do it as an occasional thing over a weekend, but that knocks me for a loop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, you know, I mean, anybody who's done any research on sleep and sleep cycles and so forth will tell you that the worst thing is when you're switching in and out.
Yeah.
You know, that
biologically, we're not wired for that.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you're right, Pete. If somebody can work, if you're steadily working that night shift, that's one thing. But if it's like, you know, 2 weeks on and, you know, then you're switching or 3 weeks on, and because it takes your body, you know, your body can't adjust in a day or two. It takes your body like a few weeks to now get back into this, whatever the new system, the new rhythm is.
It takes you a couple weeks just for a time change.
Oh my gosh. I know. I stink at that. I'm awful. I'm not a big traveler, and I mean, even staying within this country and like flying out to California, it took me a long time. We've done it a couple of times, and it just took me far longer than it takes most people to get my body back in sync, you know? I mean, and that's only what, a 3-hour difference?
Yeah.
But we've done the Ireland thing a couple of times, and that did me in for a while. And that's not horrible. It was like 7 hours.
Yep.
You know, but I can't imagine, you know, people like Australia or some, you know, someplace. That's on my bucket list. I'd love to go to Australia, but
some of the business people that travel all the time, it's like, okay,
oh my gosh.
good luck.
My dad, my father used to travel for the government. He worked for the Defense Department during the Vietnam War, and he traveled all over the place. I don't know how he did it. I mean, in retrospect, I don't know how he did it.
Yep.
So, all right. So happy Third Shift Workers Day. Just a couple of reminders. Today is Brown Bag Day over at the Senior Center, so I will be bugging out just 5 minutes earlier or so this morning. So for those of you who are signed up for Brown Bag, it is this morning between 9 and 10. Please be respectful of that time frame. We do roll in the carpet at 10 o'clock because then we have to get ready to do curbside lunches an hour later. And we do, and I just, you know, I want to shout out, we have the students from Westfield Technical Academy from the Allied Health Department yesterday. So they help us 2 days. They come the day before Brown Bag when the food is delivered on Tuesday. They come at noontime and fill all the bags. So we do this big assembly line. And then Wednesday mornings, they come and help us with the actual distribution. So yesterday, Pete, we had everything all lined up. Yesterday was the first time we've ever tried doing this with indoor dining, because now we've started indoor dining at the senior center on
Right.
Tuesdays and Thursdays. We expanded from last month. So we're trying to figure, usually we've done this and we're spread out all over the great room. And of course we couldn't be. So, it was really kind of fun. So, at 12 o'clock, the students came and we had one section of the great room, cordoned off for the brown bag. And they just kept coming and coming. And Karen Noblet and I are looking going, what, like, wow. Usually we have maybe three or four. And this
Yep.
time we had like 10. And so I said, my gosh, it's going to take them like 15 minutes. I mean, each student putting one thing in the bag, we're going to be done, like that. Which is what happened. And it turned out we had the whole freshman class. So the whole allied health freshman class, which was fine. So we finished, and I said to the instructor, I said, we have seniors here having lunch. This would be an ideal time, because the students finished early, for them to just schmooze around, go and sit down. And because this is what the freshman experience is supposed to be about in allied health in your freshman year. You're just kind of dipping your toe into the water, because, starting next year, they'll be out and doing some field work out in nursing homes and assisted living and, even Western Mass Hospital. So this is kind of an easy way to get to begin to interact with older adults if you're not used to that. I mean, these people are all very talkative and social and so forth. So they were a little hesitant at first. And I said, look, you can go in, it's not one person per table. I said, a couple of you go, you can stay with a friend. Mm-hmm. And, about 10 or 15 minutes later, it was so chatty in there. Everybody was, of course, the seniors were asking the students all kinds of questions. And I think one of my seniors was giving them a whole history of Westfield. And, so it was really nice.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, because next month, Brown Bag is right before the students are going to be finishing for the year, so we're not really sure that they're going to be able to help us out. And I have to tell you, we are spoiled with having them. They've been helping us all through the pandemic, really, for the last 2 years, and they just do a fabulous job. They're just terrific, and we've gotten to really love them. And we kind of keep saying, what are we going to do this summer when you students aren't around? So big shout out to the Westfield Tech students.
Yeah, sure.
All right, it is 6:33. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We're going to listen to, in honor of the birthday of Mark Herndon, who was the drummer for the rock band, country rock band, Alabama. We're going to listen to their version of Mountain Music. We'll be back.
You see that mountain over there? Yeah, one of these days I'm gonna climb that mountain. Oh, play me some mountain music, like Grandma and Grandpa used to play. Then I'll float on down the river to Cajun Hideaway. Drift away like Tom Sawyer, ride a raft with old Huck Finn, take a nap like Rip Van Winkle, daydreaming again. Oh, play me some mountain music, like Grandma and Grandpa used to play. Then I'll float on some back home, come on music that comes from the heart. Play something with lots of feeling, 'cause that's where music has to start. Oh, play me some mountain music like Grandma and Grandpa used to play. Then I'll float on down the river to Cajun Hideaway. Hey, hey. Oh, play me mountain music. Oh, play me mountain music. Oh, play me mountain music. Oh, play.
Support for community radio on WSKB provided by Westfield Electroplating. Employing over 140 skilled platers, painters, and technicians, Westfield Electroplating was founded in 1946 and was the first company in the country to achieve National Aerospace and Defense Contractor Program accreditation, proudly maintaining that status for over a decade. Westfield Electroplating provides over 50 quality finishes to meet your corrosion, cosmetic, or performance needs. On the web at www.westfieldplating.com or 413-568-3716. Westfield Electroplating, putting the finishing touches on technology.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:38. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So just to give folks a little preview of what's happening second hour on the show, we will have, my guests will be Rita Sanders and Andy Bean, both from Bay State Noble Hospital. Rita is the stroke program coordinator. Andy Bean is the nurse manager for the emergency department over at Bay State. May is Stroke Awareness Month, so we're going to be talking all about strokes, and I have an interesting story that was in today's paper about that as well, but I'll save that for second hour. So they'll be joining us just after 7 o'clock. Not only is the second Wednesday of the month Third Shift Workers Day, National Third Shift Workers Day, it is also National Receptionists Day, and it gives recognition to receptionists and the valuable contributions that they make to companies where they work. Receptionists are responsible for providing an excellent first impression to all customers in person and on the telephone. Their customer service skills play a vital role in each company's image. Not only do receptionists often serve as a company's first impression, but they often maintain invoices, organize office maintenance, and keep an inventory of supplies. Since they are the first person that most visitors see, they often serve as the first point of security and safety, controlling the flow of who enters and leaves the office. Many receptionists serve in multiple roles, too. They may be the one source for the company's human resources, assisting with benefits, new hires, and disability claims. They may occasionally serve as an administrative assistant when needed. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there are more than 1 million receptionists in the United States. So, happy Receptionist Day, and we certainly honor all of them that are doing that vital work. How many times have we heard people say, I just want to hear a loud, a real voice on the phone, like a real person. I want to talk to a receptionist when I call. It is also the birthday of Robert Jarvik, scientist, researcher, and entrepreneur, born on this day in 1946 in Midland, Michigan. He is 76 years old. Robert Jarvik was raised in Stamford, Connecticut, so a New England man. He's the nephew of Murray Jarvik. Murray Jarvik was a pharmacologist who was the co-inventor of the nicotine patch. Robert Jarvik earned a master's degree in medical engineering from New York University, and he attended the University of Utah Medical School. He completed 2 years of study, and in 1971, he was hired by William Kolff. William Kolff was a Dutch-born physician inventor who produced the first dialysis machine and who was working on other artificial organs, including a heart. Robert Jarvik received his MD in 1976 from the University of Utah. A medical scientist, he did not complete an internship or residency and has never been licensed to practice medicine. But Jarvik joined the University of Utah's Artificial Organs program in 1971. At the time, the program used a pneumatic artificial heart designed by Clifford Quan Gett that had sustained an animal in the lab for 10 days. Jarvik was assigned to design a new heart that would overcome the problems of the Quan Gett heart, eventually culminating with the Jarvik 7 device. In 1982, the team carried out an artificial heart implant. William DeVries first implanted the Jarvik 7 into retired dentist Barney Clark at the University of Utah on December 2nd, 1982. Do you remember this, Pete, when Barney Clark got the first artificial heart? Or was that kind of...
Yeah, I remember the Jarvik heart, yeah.
Yeah. Clark required frequent visits to the hospital for the next 112 days, after which he died. I remember this because I remember them like each day. It's like, he's still alive, he's still alive. First artificial heart, and it was the Jarvik 7. During press conferences to update the patient's condition, Jarvik, along with DeVries, briefed the world's media on Clark's condition. The next several implantations of the Jarvik 7 heart were conducted by Humana, a large healthcare insurance company. The second patient, who was William J. Schroeder, survived 620 days. So that's like 2 years. So we went from, 112 days to 620 days. So
Yep.
Happy birthday to Robert Jarvik. And, it's interesting because, of course, we think when people go to medical school, we just automatically assume they practice medicine, they're working with people and so forth. And I don't think that we think as much about medical research and, these physicians who do other things besides, treat patients in an office or in a hospital. So happy 76th birthday to Robert Jarvik, who was born and raised in Stamford, Connecticut. So he's a New England guy.
Oh, jeez. I
Right?
didn't realize that.
Yeah, I know. I always try to highlight, the people from the Northeast and all the good that we're doing. I mentioned before that we at the Senior Center are doing indoor dining on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you are interested in dining indoors, or if you still want to get curbside on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the process is the same. You call the Senior Center between 8:30 and 9:15 in the morning. It's first come, first serve until we sell out. But it's the same if you're eating indoor. Just call us in the morning. Let us know that you'd like to join us that day for lunch. At 9:15 is when we give the final count to the kitchen. So we are not accommodating any walk-ins at the Senior Center for Indoor Dining. You need to call between 8:30 and 9:15, and most people have been really good about that. We suggest that you call closer to 8:30 because some of the meals do sell out. We haven't had any of the indoor sell out yet, but certainly our curbside we've sold out.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. Today we have beef stroganoff. That's curbside. Tomorrow, for indoor dining, we have Vinny's homemade meatballs. Now, for those of you who are not in the know, Vinny is Joanne Boucher, our kitchen food services coordinator. Vinny is her dad who owned several Italian restaurants in this area. So when
He's got a good meatball.
yeah, he got a good meatball. You got that right, Pete. And usually that's like, those go like that. So if you want to do indoor dining tomorrow and you want Vinny's meatballs, you better call us at 8:30 because I have a feeling we're going to be selling out pretty quickly on that one. I also want to mention before we go to the break, this month on our Westfield Council on Aging Presents series, we have District Attorney Anthony Gallooni with his program Senior Scams, What to Look For and How to Fight Back. I've started listening to this, Pete, while I'm doing my exercises in the morning, so I've got the first I'm like into the I kind of listened to his background and sort of, growing up in Springfield and how he kind of got involved and took over as a DA. So now I'm getting into the meat of it. So that is, Pete plays that on Channel 15. That's aired on Channel 15 on Tuesdays at 2:45. So throughout the month of May. But we were really lucky to have District Attorney Anthony Gallooni actually in the studio here. And then I think the following week, was it, Pete, that he was at Westfield Tech I think he did a lecture for.
Yeah, speaking to, there's kind of a law and order type class about the law. So he did a thing with them.
Did a presentation. Yeah, I saw that in the Westfield News. So really, so that was really pretty cool. All right, it is 6:47. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield Masses, and CPC Cable Channel 15. In honor of National Third Shift Workers Day, we're going to listen to the Commodore singing Night Shift. We'll be back.
His heart in every line. Marvin sang of the joy and pain. He opened up our mind, and I still can hear him say, oh, talk to me so you can see what's going on. Bet you
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Artsbeat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:52. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. You can see the green behind me and that beautiful blue sky. It's just gorgeous out there. I mean, we're going to have a nice day today. Nice week. Yay. I don't know if the wind, I'm not sure if the wind is going to die down at all. It's been fairly, it just cracks us all up at the senior center because, all of our local meteorologists keep talking about how it's just breezy out there. We're having like gale force winds and there's a brisk breeze out there.
Yeah.
But
I see the flag moving.
Really, so. Yeah, that's how I do it, Pete. I look out from my office window, I can see the American flag that we have, hanging at the senior center. And that's how I judge how windy it is. When that baby is like straight out, okay, we got a gale force wind blowing out there.
Yeah, it looks a little breezy with the American flag behind you.
Yep, I can see it there. Yep, flying over the green. Okay, let's do a couple more birthdays and a few announcements. And again, after the top of the hour, we have a couple of folks from Bay State Noble Hospital. We're going to be talking all things stroke. We're going to be talking about risk factors, how to recognize the signs of a stroke if you or someone you love or someone you happen to be with is having a stroke, and then what to do about that. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. It is the birthday of Arnie Satin. He's a singer born on this day in 1943 in Philadelphia. He's 79 years old today. Arnie Satin was actually born Arnie Silver. That's his real name. He grew up in Philadelphia, and he was an original member of the doo-wop group, the Dovells. The group started at Overbrook High School in Philadelphia in 1957 over the name the Brooktones, which was named after their high school. The Brooktones changed their name to the Dovells because the big thing at the time was the L sound. I thought this was fascinating. So if you think about who was popular back in that time, it was the Shirelles, Bobby Rydell, and the Chantels. So they wanted to go with some kind of an L-sounding name, so they came out with the Dovells. The Dovells' first national hit was the song Bristol Stomp, which was a dance song. And Bristol Stomp sold over 1 million copies and was awarded a gold disc. This was followed by the similar hit Do the Continental. The Dovells appeared performing both songs in the Chubby Checker movie Don't Knock the Twist back in 1961. They released a series of singles over the next few years, and these included You Can't Sit Down, a top Billboard Hot 100 hit in 1963. So happy birthday to Arnie Satin, singer from the Dovells. And finally, it is the birthday of the late William Glasser, psychiatrist, born on this day in 1925 in Cleveland, Ohio, and he died at the age of 88 in 2013. And I want to just talk for a minute about William Glasser because anybody who has a degree in psychology or counseling knows who William Glasser is. He maintained a private practice in Los Angeles from 1956 to 1986. And in the 1970s, when he became familiar with control theory systems through the writings of scientist William T. Powers, Glasser developed reality therapy and choice theory. These remain controversial in the psychiatric community because of their emphasis on choice and behavior rather than mental illness or chemical imbalances. Rather than being the result of chemical imbalances, Glasser posits his theory is that destructive behaviors are subtle, if unconscious, choices. According to choice theory, people develop a quality world, which is a representation of a person's relationships, beliefs, and values. we perpetually compare our real-world experiences. Much of human unhappiness derives from this comparison, and one of the most significant sources of stress is failed relationships. Glasser's approach emphasizes the role of behavior rather than emotions and argues that humans have significant control over their actions and thinking. Practitioners of reality therapy argue that suffering, the need for belonging, and the craving for relationships are universal human afflictions, and the problematic behaviors these problems cause are not mental illnesses but part of the human condition. This form of therapy focuses on specific actions and behaviors and practical solutions in the present. Practitioners of reality therapy spend little time on diagnosis, analyzing the past, or traditional psychoanalytic methods. And they're much more apt to just focus on, okay, this is why you are who you are, whether it was your upbringing, your relationship with either one of your parents or both. But reality therapy is like, okay, but now what are we going to do about that? That's what we're going to focus on. So it's an interesting, it's an interesting theory because especially at the time that Glasser first came up with this, there was Freudian theory was really popular. Oh, you are the way you are because of all these other things. And it didn't really go past that. It was just kind of an explanation of, okay, this is why you are who you are, or you do what you do, or you think the way you think. But there was no sort of moving forward with that. And I think Glasser took it to the next step and said, okay, we're not saying that you didn't have a horrible childhood or, traumatic experiences, but how are you now going to, how can you change your behavior to make your life work for you? So it's an interesting thing. So interesting theory. So happy birthday to William Glasser. I actually heard him speak at, he did a conference here. Oh gosh, it must have been back in the 80s. I'm trying to think of when I was in graduate school. That would have been back in the 1980s. At what's the place in Agawam, Pete? The oh my gosh, they do like a lot of dinner dances and things like that. I can't think of the name of it. It's like a banquet facility.
The Polish Americans Club?
Nope. Oh my God, it's driving me crazy. I'll think of it
Crestwood
though.
Country Club?
No, but it's across from Crestwood. It's just banquets. It's not a country club.
Oh, Chez Joseph is gone.
Thank
That's
you.
gone.
Yes, exactly. Is it gone?
Yeah, they went out of business.
Okay, that's where I saw.
Supposedly it's being turned into a nightclub.
Okay. Well, that's where I heard they used to do a lot of conferences, like they would do weekend, weddings and banquets and all that stuff. But during the week, they would do, professional conferences and business meetings and things like that. That's where I heard William Glasser speak.
Yep.
All right. A couple of announcements and we'll do our top of the hour stuff. And then hopefully my guests are floating around.
One of them's here.
Okay, one of them's here. Perfect. So just an announcement because we are taking names. We're taking registration for our Mother's Day Parade of Hats curbside luncheon, which is a week from today. So we're doing that on Wednesday, May 18th. On the menu will be roasted turkey breast with gravy, cornbread stuffing, vegetable, and we're doing strawberry shortcake for dessert in honor of all of our moms. We're taking reservations by telephone. We started taking them last week, and we'll take them through Friday. And then that's going to be it. That'll be our final count. The cost of the dinner is $5, which will be paid curbside on the day of the event. So if you're interested in signing up for our Mother's Day Parade of Hats curbside luncheon, so you got to wear a hat. Dig something out of your closet, make one. It could be any kind. It could be a baseball cap, or it could be something really fancy that you would like wear to the Kentucky Derby, or anything in between. Or it can be really fun and crazy, which is what most of the women did a couple of years ago when we did this. We had a good time with it because, of course, remember you're coming through the parking lot, so we can really only see you from your waist up. So get us some good hats so we can take some good pictures. If you want to register for that, call the Senior Center at 562-6435. We already have over 100 people signed up for that. So, and we can take more. When we know in advance, we can take a lot of reservations, but you do need to reserve by the end of the day on Friday, so we can get the turkeys ready and defrosting and so forth. And then the other thing that people are signing up for is I'm doing my 2-part workshop series called Downsizing in Place. This has been wildly popular. Of course, I haven't done it since COVID hit, but this is a method. I'm going to kind of walk you through the process of cleaning up the clutter in your house, getting ready to possibly move if that's, and even if that's not for several years down the road. If you've lived in your house for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and a lot of my seniors have, you've just accumulated, a lifetime of items. And so we're going to start walking through the process of how do you thin those down? Because even if you're going to stay right where you are and you end up staying there until your final resting days, you don't want your children to have to go through all of those items. Someday down the road when you pass. Mm-hmm. So this is just it's a very structured way of doing this, and it takes a task that seems overwhelming and monumental, and it kind of puts it into some doable chunks for you. So if you're interested in the Downsizing in Place workshop series, it's 2 workshops. I'm doing it starting next Thursday, so May 19th and May 26th from 1 to 2. I have lots of handouts for you to walk you through this process. I'll have you do a little bit of homework between week 1 and week 2. But space is limited, so make sure that you pre-register for that. Just call the Senior Center at 562-6435 and let them know that you'd like to participate in the downsizing workshop. And then one more announcement that will take our top of the hour break. And this is just a little quick thing. In this month's newsletter, the May Voice of Experience newsletter right here, you will note that this summer we are starting some new chair yoga class offerings. We're going to be, we have 3 chair yoga classes. Instead of having all of the classes the same, we're going to do something a little bit different. And in keeping with some of the guidelines through the Executive Office of Elder Affairs on falls prevention, we're going to be offering 3 different yoga classes. We're going to offer a progressive chair to floor yoga. We're going to offer a gentle chair yoga, and we are going to offer an in and out of the chair yoga. So instead of signing up based on, a day and time, you'll sign up based on the level of chair yoga class that you'd like to participate in. So we're excited about that. That will start this summer. So we'll be doing that in July and August, and the July and August schedule will be coming out. If not later this week, we're just finalizing the draft early next week so that you'll have that schedule. And then signups for those chair yoga classes will be in early June. So we're just giving people plenty of notice so that they can kind of plan with that. All right, it is 7:04. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We're going to take a short break and we will be back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:07. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. Pete Coles is behind the control board over there. And my guest this morning is Rita Sanders, a stroke program coordinator at Bay State Noble Hospital. We reserved a chair for Andy Bean, who is the nurse manager at Bay State Noble Emergency Department. Unfortunately, that's what happens with emergency departments. They have emergencies, and so Andy couldn't be with us this morning. But we had a chair for him, so we'll just kind of pretend. So welcome, Rita. And you were on the show when we were up at the college, right? When we were doing the radio. That was just radio. Now we're cable. Now we can be seen and heard. So for those who don't remember that time, because that was quite a while ago, let's start with who you are and your background and, are you from this area and where did you go to college and how did you decide you wanted to be a nurse? Were you one of those, like when your third grade teacher said, what do you want to be? Did you know you wanted to be a nurse or did that happen later?
No, in third grade. I think, I went through all those fun little, I'm going to be a chef and I'm going to be all those things.
And like the mayor, or I want to be
you want to work with your hands. And no, I didn't know until I was in high school. My grandmother was a nurse she was a cadet nurse in the Army, and that's where she met my grandfather. It was romantic. Yeah, we have some old pictures of her. Yeah. And then I went through high school and kind of.
Now, where did you go to high school? Are you from this area?
No, I'm actually from the eastern part of the state, Dracut. Yeah. So I went to Dracut High School and decided I wanted to be a nurse. So I actually went to St. Anselm for half a year.
Okay.
Decided that wasn't quite for me, so transferred to UMass Lowell. Well, still not quite there. So I went in the Air Force.
Really?
Yeah. So I was up in Alaska for about 4 years before I met my husband. And then I stayed for another bit of his tour when I got out. And it's been kind of a whirlwind. We ended up in South Carolina for a bit and then back up to Massachusetts. He's from Wisconsin. It's interesting.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Well, let's go back to Alaska for a minute. So, so what was that like living in Alaska for 4 years?
Beautiful, but extreme.
Yeah.
Right now it's like prime time to be there. Probably next month. There's a lot more light where it just kind of hovers around the horizon. It doesn't really go up and come down.
Yeah.
In the winter, it's kind of the opposite, and it's really dark. But I was 19, 20. It was a fun time. We found things to do. You don't realize what time it is in the summer. I got to be to work in 4 hours.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I know. I can imagine that.
I had my first child up there, and then I had my second one in South Carolina. So I've kind of been all over the place.
Yeah, and that's quite the dichotomy from, Alaska to South Carolina. Yeah. In every way, like to me, like sort of in every way possible, just weather and culture and, everything. That's
I don't
really
think
different.
Massachusetts sets you up for that. So, you get a little bit of everything, but my basic training was in like June and July in San Antonio, extreme. And then they sent me to Alaska in January. I was, come back to Massachusetts. It's gorgeous.
So now well, you're originally from Massachusetts. Your husband, you said, was from Wisconsin?
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As I was like, wait,
where
right, all over the place. So how did you, the two of you end up settling in Massachusetts? How did that actually end up happening?
We actually kind of made a decision that we wanted our children to go to school in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Because their public school system is wonderful.
It's got a great,
in comparison.
Yeah.
And my family was up here, so we came up. I finished up my nursing school. I think I've got transcripts from 7 different colleges to get there, but at the end of the day, HCC was where I received my diploma.
Yeah.
And so I've been working at Noble since then. Took a quick break in 2014 and kind of went to Boston and then to Bay State.
Yeah.
And then ended up back here. So,
And so did you specialize, Rita, in any type of nursing, or how did that kind of, I mean, I know what you're doing now, but how
Right.
how do we kind of end up here?
So in the service, I was a medic.
Okay.
So I feel like I've kind of been with patients since I've been 19 years old. And then when I went to Noble and I graduated, I was in their ICU when they had an ICU.
Okay.
And then right now I'm the night house supervisor. So I work Friday, Saturday nights, and then I do stroke program coordinating. I've done that for about 6 years, kind of added on duty.
Okay.
So
it's interesting because today is National Third Shift Workers Day, and Pete and I were discussing, what that's like. And, a lot of people, when they think of third shift, they're thinking of, factories, warehouses, businesses that have to keep going. And we're like, no, there's this whole other healthcare professional. We've got hospitals and nursing homes and, assisted living and, all kinds of facilities with people that have to work, around the clock. And we were talking to, Pete, because Pete's done dispatch and has done public safety and so forth. And he's worked third shift. And I said to him, what was that like for you? And, there are there's a lot of research on sleep study and it's okay if that's what you're doing on a regular basis. What becomes trickier, as you probably are well aware since you've done this, is, when you're switching back and forth, especially fairly frequently, because, it just takes your body some time to adjust to those night shifts.
Yeah, so I work Friday night, Saturday night every week. Sunday, I kind of is a wash. I try to flip over. And during the week, I homeschool during the day. So I have to be awake, Monday through Friday, then I'm back to work. But it works because it's, some exceptions, but mostly just Friday, Saturday. So, while the kids are little, it works.
And you have the rhythm down.
Have the rhythm down, yeah.
I think that's a thing. So how old are your children at this point?
I have a 20-year-old who actually works in the ER. She's she's a PCT over at Noble. And I have an 18-year-old who is just finishing up her EMT in Lowell, where my folks are from.
Okay.
I've got a 12-year-old boy at the intermediate, and I've got a 9-year-old that I'm homeschooling right now.
Wow. Well, you certainly have a full plate over there, Rita. All right. So in your work at Noble, how did you end up as your title, one of your titles is Stroke Program Coordinator. And how did that happen? How did you kind of end up with that program?
So as a supervisor, we get to see the whole house.
Right.
It's not just focused on one unit. And the quality department was looking for somebody to kind of head up a stroke program. So there are, several different regulatory bodies that want to make sure that you're doing the right thing for all your patients. And so that takes kind of a central role, a coordinator, to put that together. So they just presented it to me, and I thought, that'll be great.
Sure.
So
and how long have you been doing that?
About 6 years.
Oh, wow. You're like an old pro now. Awesome. That's great. All right. So now that we know a little bit about you, we know a little bit about your background, we're going to take a short break so I can dig out my cheat sheet questions of all the things that I want to ask about strokes and stroke awareness. We're going to talk a little bit about, risk factors and how does someone know if they're having a stroke, or how do they know if someone that they're with might be displaying symptoms of a stroke, because we know that especially with a stroke, seconds count. So we're going to talk about why that is, though. I'm going to have you explain that to us. So we've got a lot more to talk about. Again, if you're just joining us, my guest is Rita Sanders. She is Stroke Program Coordinator for Bay State Noble Hospital. So right now, in honor of National Receptionist Day, because this is also National Receptionist Day, we're going to listen to Blondie singing Call Me. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM. Radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. We'll be back.
Come up off your
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:20. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and in the studio with me this morning is Rita Sanders, Stroke Program Coordinator for Bay State Noble Hospital. May is Stroke Awareness Month, right, Rita?
Yes.
I'm correct on that one. So we are talking sort of all things stroke. So you've given us a little bit of your background and how you got involved with this and nursing and talking off air about all of the other things going on in your life. So I really want to start with the basics because I think a lot of us know that strokes can be incredibly serious and life-changing, but I think there are a lot of people out there that don't exactly know, well, what is a stroke? Not the symptoms, not the risk factors, but what exactly happens physiologically when someone's having a stroke.
Yeah, that's important. So stroke is a disruption in the oxygen-rich blood to parts of the brain.
Okay.
And so it can happen different ways. But when you block that oxygen to the tissue, it starts to die.
Okay.
And when you have brain tissue that's dying, you're going to have, serious effects. And you have to respond very quickly in order to get the right treatment. So there are, two major types of stroke. One is an ischemic stroke, and that's usually caused by a clot or a plaque in an artery.
Okay.
When that happens, they've got to reperfuse that. They have to get the blood back through. They have to move that clot out of the way in order to get the blood back to the parts of the brain. That accounts for about 87% of all stroke.
Which is the vast majority. Is through some kind of a clot, which is preventing the blood flow up to the brain. And just to kind of just to review for your physiology. So the blood is carrying oxygen. That's the big deal, right? So though that oxygen, your brain needs oxygen to survive.
Right, and for you to function right. Correct.
Yeah.
And then the other 13% or so are hemorrhagic strokes, and that's when there's a burst vessel in different parts of the brain. And it's less frequent, but it's just as serious. Usually, like an aneurysm or something like that can cause a burst vessel. And when that happens, the blood isn't being routed to where it needs to go. So the same thing will happen. You'll have death of the tissue right around that area.
Okay. And you know what? We hadn't really talked about this ahead of time, Rita, but sometimes people have heard from their doctor that they had a mini stroke. What's that? I mean, how mini is mini, and what does that mean?
A mini, sometimes people call it a TIA or a transient ischemic attack. It's like an ischemic. It's like a mini stroke because the clot will block the vessel for a short period of time.
Okay.
So you'll see the symptoms right away, but they might go away. Usually under 24 hours is what a TIA or a mini stroke qualifies for. The scary thing about that is even though it goes away, you still have to get checked out immediately. People go on to have major strokes within the year at a pretty high rate. If you've had it, it's a warning. It's kind of like, I'm ringing the bell. You got to get this checked out.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the other thing sometimes that happens with mini strokes is sometimes they can be so many that people aren't really even aware that they're having them. I remember my grandmother. In retrospect, we can go back and say, oh, my God, she was having TIAs. My grandfather described one situation where he was helping her to put her shoes on, and she had some mobility limitations. So she was sitting, and he was talking to her, just like about the day and what we're going to do, because she was, getting dressed for the morning. And he asked her a question, and she didn't answer. She didn't respond. And, he kind of said, Helen? He kind of looked up, and he had a hearing problem. So he thought maybe she had said something and he didn't hear. And he said later, when I looked at her, she kind of had this blank stare, almost like she was off in another world. And he got a little nervous, and he said, Helen. And it only lasted literally a minute. And then she kind of was back, and it's, like, what are what are you yelling for? So he kind of dismissed it, but then said, it had happened a few times, and ultimately she had 2 major strokes.
Yeah.
I think, it can be sort of
it.
so subtle though that people don't, and especially I thought to myself, if my grandfather wasn't there and that had happened to her, she probably wouldn't have even realized that she had kind of drifted off for a couple of minutes. And
We see that a lot. And, this is why it's important to let the community know. Don't doubt yourself, especially with your loved ones. You know them, you know their subtleties, and it can be a little intimidating when you're talking about the brain, neurological. You can't put your finger on it the way somebody might be having a heart attack. Same thing, it's a clot, but they're clutching their chest, and you know something's wrong.
Right, yeah.
Whereas, with stroke, it's just not, you can't put your finger on it. They're not having pain. Something's not right. But there are objective ways.
Yeah.
To figure out if it could be.
Okay.
And
so let's talk about, some of the signs and symptoms of how might someone know that either they're in trouble or somebody that they're with might be having the symptoms. What are the things we need to look for?
In the medical community, we use a lot of acronyms. The one we like the most currently is called BEFAST, BEFAST. So those it kind of lines up some of the symptoms you should be looking for. The B is balance. So if you notice a sudden change in balance, we're not talking about, somebody who's, maybe had some surgery or something and they're just kind of off gait. But if your normal day is going out to the supermarket and all of a sudden you're kind of listing to one way, or you feel like, maybe the room's spinning and it happens suddenly, that's actually a sign that it could be a stroke in the brain. Your E is for eyes. So another thing that happens with strokes in different parts of the brain is that it can cut your field of vision depending on where the stroke is. And it can give you blurry vision, things go out of focus, and that's another sudden symptom. So if people have a sudden change in vision, that's something that's an emergency as well. Your F is your standard face, and what you'll see is a droop on one side perhaps, or somebody who's talking isn't able to get, one side of their face to be even with the other.
Coordinate with the other side.
Right. And sometimes you might see a drooling or something like that. They're not able to eat properly. A is for arm, but it could be leg as well. Usually what you'll see with stroke is perhaps one side of the body isn't as strong as the other. It may be limp, or it may just they can't pull it up the way they used to. S is for speech. So if you notice that, and speech doesn't have to be just talking. It can be understanding. If you're talking, to, like you said, to your grandparents, if they're talking to one another and one of them just kind of looks dazed, confused, not really understanding, that's a change. That's a change in speech pattern, speech understanding, or it could be as obvious as they're trying to speak to you and it comes out garbled. The words aren't clear. And the T is for time. So if you have any of those things that you're noticing in a loved one, then time is of the essence. It's 911 immediately. And I think, with people, they talk away the symptoms, right? We're like, oh, it's going to be something else. But people are more confident when they see somebody else. I think when it's yourself, you're kind of like, well, it could be one thing. It could be something else. It'll probably go away. But when you see a loved one change, I think you're more apt to get help because you're nervous. You're not sure what else to do. So people can't always advocate for themselves when they're having a stroke. But, if grandma's watching her, elementary school kids after school, these are things that they should know. They'll see the subtle changes in their grandparents.
Absolutely.
So call 911.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit, Rita, about why is time such a factor when someone's, because let's face it, we sometimes we get a headache, or, we feel like maybe we're getting the flu, and, you just kind of, well, I'll go to bed and let's see if this passes. Maybe I'll feel better in a couple hours. But why is that not a good idea if you even think, if there's even a hint that this may be a stroke?
If it's the brain, you've got to do something right away. If it's, if you've cut yourself and it's like, oh, well, it looks like the bleeding stopped a little bit, I can keep an eye on it. When it comes to your neurological status, it's an emergency. We have very limited time to do things in an acute setting. So we have a time frame for giving medicines and doing removing clots. For medicines to bust up a clot, we have up to 3 hours for our drug. In some cases, we can extend that to 4.5, but it's dependent on when you were last known at your baseline. And sometimes you'll hear last known well. Last known baseline is probably more appropriate because some people just aren't well.
Right. Yeah.
So, but having that information of when, as close as you can to when that person was last at their normal. We, if it's within 3 hours and you get them to the hospital quickly, we can give them medicines that could reverse some of the effects of the stroke and help in the recovery. We have also an agreement with the main campus, Bay State Medical Center, who has the ability to go up into an artery and retrieve the clot and pull it out, which restores immediately blood flow to the brain and will help with both recovery and blood flow.
So the longer, my understanding is that the longer and first of all, it's whatever portion of the brain is being fed by whatever artery is clogged or blocked, right? So the longer that blood flow is not getting to that area of the brain, the more likely that the damage is going to be irreversible.
Millions of neurons, millions of cells within seconds. And it's hard because, the patients don't necessarily look like an emergency. They're just kind of laying in the bed. And, we have a very strict protocol that when we know that there's a stroke coming into us, things we meet you at the door. And we hold your hand the entire time through that entire process until decisions are made. And hopefully we can, do something in the acute setting. But, even if not, so if you wake up and you're not feeling right and we don't know the last time you were well, probably, before you went to bed, that's not the end of it. That doesn't mean we can't do things. We have, very good rehab teams. We mitigate your risk factors. We make sure your blood pressure's okay. So it's not the, not the end. It's the fifth leading cause of death in the United States, but it's the number one cause of disability. So we can do things and we can try our best to get you back. It's not always a death sentence, is what I mean.
What's really interesting, I've been in this field for a long time, over 40 years. And, there was a time when I first started, before TPA and before we had these clot-busting drugs and so forth, where, and I can remember this with my own grandmother, who did have some TIAs that we weren't aware of, ended up with 2 major strokes. The first stroke, she was hospitalized. When the neurologist went in to see her, she was sitting in a chair, and that's when she had her second stroke. Sitting in the chair with the neurologist watching, and there was really nothing. They didn't have anything back then. There was nothing to do other than keep her from falling out of the chair and, protect her that way. But how far we have come, and with our understanding of time being a factor and just some of these other treatments that we're able to do, and that all happened within my lifetime, and so it's just, for me, I almost get desperate with, people saying, no, there are things, there are so many things that we can do now that we couldn't do back 40 years ago. So take advantage.
Our community, what we see, with the data and, the Westfield and the hill towns, is that the population is hesitant to call 911. So, I don't have our exact figures, but they'll drive each other in, to avoid
right,
the extra time or maybe find the ambulance finding them. But the benefit to calling the ambulance is that the ambulance will let us know on the way, and they can get
absolutely.
So when you walk in, you're chopping more minutes off of your ability to treat. So.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a short break. My guest this morning, if you're just joining us, is Rita Sanders. She is the Stroke Program Coordinator at Bay State Noble Hospital. And I want to talk, when we come back, Rita, I just want to talk a little bit about risk factors and what can people do to be proactive to prevent a stroke. So we'll get there. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. And in honor of the birthday of Robert Jarvik, who did the first artificial heart, we're going to listen to Gene Pitney singing My Heart, Your Heart. We'll be back.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at Rockies.com.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. My microphone is slipping here. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with Rita Sanders, Stroke Program Coordinator at Bay State Noble Hospital. So we've talked a little bit about what happens when someone has a stroke. You talked about Be Fast. So that's your acronym for, let me see if I've got this right. So B, what was the B? Balance was number one. Eyes, I know eyes was number two. Fast is your face, and is there drooping? A is your arm, also could be the leg. Is there sort of one-sided weakness somewhere? S is speech, and T is time, because time is really of the essence. Well, the fast part of it, I know. The B fast got added because we used to have posters at the senior center for fast, to if people had any of those symptoms. So let's talk, Rita. I want to talk a little bit about how can we prevent this whole thing. So, what are some of the risk factors? Who is at risk for having a stroke? And are there some things that they can do to be less at risk for having a stroke? Let's go in that direction.
Yes, risk factors. The number one risk factor for stroke is high blood pressure. Because it puts a lot of stress on your vessels over time. You can build up plaques in there. So we see that, a lot of people that have stroke have high blood pressure. Diabetes is another one because it's hard on the vessels as well.
Yeah.
Atrial fibrillation, it's an arrhythmia of the heart. Okay. When that happens, your heart isn't communicating properly top to bottom. So when the top is kind of quivering, and the whole load of the blood from the top isn't getting to the bottom and out to the body, blood can pool at the top there, and when blood pools, it clots, and if it shoots out.
Yes, I remember learning that in one of my physiology classes in college, that blood needs to move. It has to keep moving, and when it starts sitting, that's when it starts clotting and sediment and coagulating and so forth. So movement is really important with your blood. And for those who don't know, your heart, I'm not sure if everybody knows that your heart has different chambers. So when you're talking about the upper and the lower, and that's what people, if you're now a lot of people know, well, my heart valve, something's happening with my heart valve. Well, the valves are in between the chambers of the heart. So as you said, if one chamber is not functioning properly and the other chamber's trying to pick up that load, that's where you also start to run into some problems. So just to kind of set the stage for people.
Right.
Yeah.
Cholesterol, high cholesterol is another risk factor. Smoking is another one. If you've had a TIA, high risk. If you've had a stroke, a very high risk, puts you back on for that. Yeah. They're looking at things right now. COVID, actually.
Yes, let's talk about that because I actually have one of our volunteers had a how did they phrase this? A COVID-related stroke.
So what was happening is you see a lot of kind of coagulation problems again during COVID.
All right.
And the strokes that were happening to younger people, and they were more severe. So, not only do you have the challenges of, the pandemic, but trying to pick up, those symptoms as well.
Yeah.
You were talking before that it's so subtle that you just don't know sometimes, and you try to talk it away. But unfortunately, that was one of the things they found out during COVID was that it can increase your risk. Some of the other things that they look for and they trend are migraines, depression, things like that, because I think those can have an effect on blood flow in the brain too. So, but hypertension is really something that can be modified. Same with cholesterol.
Yep.
Some things you can't modify your age as we get older, right?
So does the risk factor increase as people age?
It does.
That's just kind of a natural thing.
It
and as
does.
you said, you can't change your age. Can't do anything about that.
Children have strokes as well. It's not as frequent, but if they've got different genetic traits that can put them at risk for stroke. So being sedentary, not moving your legs,
not enough exercise,
right.
Not enough. And again, when we talk about exercise and fitness, it's like you don't have to run a marathon, but you have to get up and move around.
You have to move.
Yeah, you have to move.
You have to move.
Keep active.
And the things that you eat, you really have to have a diet low in saturated fats and
heart healthy diet.
Heart
healthy diet. So lots of fruits and vegetables, leafy greens, and
right.
yep, not all that cholesterol building, other fatty stuff.
So some of the things that people can do to mitigate these is to talk to their primary care physicians. Once you have a stroke and you're at the hospital, these things will be looked at. We're going to look at your cholesterol. We're going to watch your blood pressure. Interestingly enough, is when somebody's having a stroke, an ischemic stroke, a lot of times what you'll see is a blood pressure through the roof, 200s over 100s. And that's the body's natural reaction to try to reperfuse that area, is to push it through. And what'll happen is they won't bring that down right away. The doctors will kind of target it over a few days to slowly bring it down so that you are getting a little bit of that collateral extra perfusion to the brain. But once that that acute phase is over, the blood pressure has to be managed. We're talking, 130 over 80 is probably a decent goal for most people. So getting your blood pressure down is huge. They'll check your blood sugars to make sure that those aren't out of whack. They'll make sure you don't have diabetes. Some people don't find out until they have an event.
Well, you know what? I was going to ask Rita, we've, for as often as I've had people on this show, we've talked about hypertension or high blood pressure. Are there any symptoms of high blood pressure, or is the only way that you really know is to have your blood pressure taken either, by in a medical office or at the senior center, by the way?
Right. I don't think a lot of people do.
I mean,
I
don't know of anybody ever saying, well, I
new,
felt such and such a way, and so they automatically suspected high blood pressure. In my experience, most people find out they have high blood pressure just because they had their blood pressure taken. It's like, oh my gosh.
I think people will know if they have a normal blood pressure if it's high.
Yeah.
Like if my blood pressure runs low, but all of a sudden I'm flushed and my head's pounding and something like that.
Okay.
Or if you're having pain, you can tell that the blood pressure is going to be high. But over time, I don't think that.
So the only way to really monitor that or to even have an awareness is to get a checkup. And you know what? I'm going to break for a little infomercial here, but we do have a nurse now at the senior center through the health department. So she's there every day. People can call and make an appointment. And one of the things that that Evelyn does a lot is monitoring blood pressure. And for some people, because that's kind of what the doctor has said, it's like, all right, we need to be checking this on a regular basis. And of course, there are home, blood pressure kits and so forth. Not everybody's really comfortable with that. I have to tell you, I would be questioning myself. It's like, okay, but is it really what I just, what I mean?
We doubt ourselves.
Yeah, I would be doubting myself. And I feel pretty confident, but it's like, yeah, this is a little out of my realm.
And then you get nervous and it gets higher.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's like, that white coat syndrome stuff. So, so I think, to please take advantage of the fact that we have, that we do have a nurse at the senior center that can help you to just kind of monitor that. And we do have some people that are taking advantage. So we're seeing them on a regular basis. And, and the nice thing is they come out of there sometimes feeling we have people coming into they're monitoring their own weight and going on their own program. And so we have a really nice walk-on scale that has, the handles and everything. So it's easy to get onto. And yeah, it really is. It's a great community service. So if you're, because we have some people that are really great about trying to do the whole total thing. They're trying to get a little bit more exercise, trying to watch what they're, change their diet a little bit, check, keeping a track of their blood pressure. And, that's just great because those are the preventive measures that, so that people don't end up in the ED.
And then when things are wrong. The more you know what's normal, the more the other things stand out. The not normals stand out.
You're right. Yeah, because you really need to know your own body. And I'm always amazed at people who just say, I knew there was something wrong. I just didn't feel right.
Build the confidence in them to get the help. How do you do that? That's the
exactly. And sometimes it takes an outsider. It takes one of their kids to say, okay, we need to. We're gonna go to the hospital. All right. My guest this morning is Rita Sanders, stroke program coordinator over at Bay State Noble Hospital. We're going to take our final break. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor of the birthday of Arnie Satin of the Dovelles, we're going to listen to the dance song, the Bristol Stomp. We'll be back.
Kids in Bristol are sharp as a pistol when they do the Bristol Stomp. Really something when the joint is jumping when they do the Bristol Stomp.
Oh, sounds are spinning every Friday night. Ba-da-ba-da. They dancing graders and they do it right. Ba-da-ba-da. But here's the gladys, it's a crazy sight to
the
see.
Kids in Bristol are sharp as a pistol when they do the Bristol Stomp. Really something when the joint is jumping when they do the Bristol Stomp.
Starting in Bristol at a DJ high. They hung them whistle, never wanna stop. They pony and twisted and they rock with Daddy G.
Kids in Bristol are sharp as a pistol when they do the Bristol Stomp. Really something when the joint is jumping when they do the Bristol Stomp.
It's got that groovy beat. It's gonna make you stomp your feet. So come on, get high. Gonna
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:50. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and in the studio with me is Rita Sanders. She is the Stroke Program Coordinator at Bay State Noble Hospital. And so, Rita, you have been schooling us on things like what are the risk factors for having a stroke and how can we diminish some of those risk factors to be proactive so that we don't end up in the ED over at Bay State Noble. You've talked a little bit about signs and symptoms. How would we know if we're having a stroke, or how would we know if somebody that we're with is having a stroke or might be having a stroke? I think one of the key takeaways that I'm hearing from you is don't doubt yourself. If there's any question, and sometimes at the senior center, we've had to call 911, and people are always like, no, I don't want to bother the the EMTs show up, and they're generally like, look, let's get you to the hospital. No, I don't want to bother. Let's check it out. If everything's fine, great. Yep. You're going to go home and live life happily ever after. But if not, so that's really important. So my next question is, somebody goes to Bay State Noble, let's say they're having a stroke, they're administered some clot-busting drugs, etc. In that acute care. What happens when they're now ready to leave the hospital? Where do they go? Is there therapy? Is there treatment? What happens?
So at Noble, we won't see the patients once they've had a clot buster. They're going to go to Bay State for intensive care.
Okay.
But if you've had a stroke and you're outside the time window for those things, or you're not a candidate for those things, you absolutely can stay with us. And what we'll do is, first we'll look at all those mitigating things, that medications that we can do, anticoagulants, that sort of thing if you've got atrial fibrillation. But to get you home, it's about knowing what your disability is going to be. What's your current function?
Yep.
What was your function before? And how close can we get you to that? You'll see physical therapists. They're going to come in and head to toe, see what you can do. All the touch your nose, stick your tongue, all those things, even up to walking and more. You'll also see speech therapy because they want to make sure that you're not only speaking but swallowing safely. So if you're having trouble speaking because of nerve deficit to your face, that can also affect your throat, and if you can't swallow properly, things can end up in your lungs and you'll end up with pneumonia. So you see a lot of specialists. You can see occupational therapy to make sure that you silly things like putting your key in the door. Can you get into your house? And once they've determined what the deficit is, they'll make a very specific plan to work on those things. So those connections in the brain can be worked on. It's like working out. It's like going to the gym. You just have to, while the blood vessels are starting to make their new pathways to get blood back to where it can be, you need to send new signals over for the neurons that are growing. So Bronson Rehab is actually an inpatient rehab at Noble. I can't tell you how fortunate we are to have that. Oh my gosh,
it's fabulous.
Yeah. Their stroke care is unreal.
It's fabulous.
They're wonderful. And they will work with you for weeks until they get you comfortable where you can be independent, bathing yourself, using the toilet again, eating, cooking, cleaning. They have, stairs that they'll try to get you to work on. And if you can't get those functions, they'll make sure that when you go home that you are still getting services to go outpatient PT. Yeah. There are some people who won't regain. And those cases, are sad and unfortunate. So they'll find a place in a skilled nursing facility where, you'll be looked after to make sure that you're being taken care of. just because you may not be able to talk or move, that doesn't mean that you can't hear or listen or understand.
Absolutely.
And that can be one of the most frustrating things for
everybody.
people right. And I think when you have a stroke, one of the things we see afterwards is a bit of impulsivity in patients that are used to doing things that getting out of bed.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're at a much higher risk to fall. And I think, bridging that gap between it's a loss, it's grief. Bridging that gap from what you were used to doing and learning how to accept help can be one of the most challenging things, and it's hard to do in a hospital setting when we're trying to get your body working again. So there are a lot of support groups in the community that kind of help working with those people that are really struggling.
I think the other thing that might be important to kind of mention before we wrap up, Rita, is that not all, because a stroke affects blood flow to a portion of the brain, not all strokes are the same. Whatever the residual is, it's not the same in everybody, because it depends on, some people, their speech is affected, others not. Well, it depends on what area of the brain lost the oxygen. So, there's a wide range of, post-stroke from people over here that you hardly even know that they had a stroke, to people over here who are very, might even be one-sided paralysis, speech, the whole thing, and kind of everything in between, right?
And having healthcare providers subjectively decide what's severe and not severe. Maybe somebody's flaccid on one side, but maybe a carpenter just lost some function in his hand. Where he can walk, he can drive, but how is he going to use that saw? That's his livelihood. So, what may seem like a small stroke,
relatively
can
minor
be
for
disabling.
Yes.
And so I think in the hospital setting, we have a duty to get the immediate things under control. But I think long-term effects, you see a lot of depression, and a lot of grief, and those are the harder things to overcome. So having a support system is really, really important.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the other thing is, again, going back to even to depending on what area of the brain was affected. Sometimes I remember being in on a family meeting when I was doing long-term care. Well, it was long-term care, but it was on a short-term rehab unit. So we dealt with a lot of folks who had strokes. And I remember one person was, pretty much because of where his brain was affected, he kind of didn't really have much of an awareness that he had a stroke. So, when we were talking about discharge, and he was just like, well, I'm going home. Why wouldn't I go home? Now he's using a wheelchair. It's like, well, why wouldn't I go home? Well, you live in a second floor apartment. You can't do stair. Well, of course I can do stair, And it was one of these things where he got up out of the chair because it's like, I'll show you I can do this. Well, he started to get up out of the wheelchair and of course collapsed. He was paralyzed on one side, but there wasn't that awareness versus I've worked with other folks who had such an awareness that all they did was cry. It was just this depression that they couldn't get themselves out of. So again, it's, sort of an everything in between. But and that's why I keep going back to how can we prevent this in the first place? So what are some of those risk factors that, and you need to be honest with yourself. If you're a smoker, or if you're, you don't exercise, or you don't, you're not eating the right diet. It's kind of like when people will say, well, it's my body, I'm going to do what I want to do. Yeah, but you know what? When you have a stroke, especially if it's something really major, it doesn't just affect you. It affects your spouse if you're married, and your children if they're helping out, and and your grandchildren who, it just affects a lot of people.
And disability can sometimes be a worse sentence.
Yeah, exactly.
When you can't do the things that you've lived your whole life doing. And so, I think the message has to be that you don't doubt. Neuro is hard. You can't put your finger on it. There's no test there, but there are objective things that we can look for, and trust the healthcare professional to know that it's an emergency. And like I said, we're holding your hand from the second EMS calls till you're back home.
Yep. And it's okay to just say, you know what,
I'm not sure.
Something's not right. My vision just isn't right. Oh, and as you said, these symptoms are going to be sudden. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a gradual thing. But, if you suddenly, your balance is off. Yesterday it was fine. Today it's off. There's something, there's something wrong.
There are plenty of mimics. Like, you could be dehydrated. Again, but the things that it could be, you have to get those off the list first.
Exactly. And it's the medical team that's going to help to do that.
Right. Same thing with chest pain.
Yeah.
There are a lot of reasons for chest pain, but you need to make sure that it's not that one that's going to
exactly
be the big one.
Absolutely. Rita Sanders, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you for enlightening us about stroke and stroke awareness and all of the risk factors and the signs and symptoms. Remember, be fast. And Rita had said off air that you have some literature that you can give us so we can have some brochures. So anything like that will be at the senior center, and I'm happy to come and pick them up. So just let me know when they're available.
Okay.
But thank you so much. Everyone have a great week. It looks, I think Chamber Chatters is on next. And it looks like Andrea Allard is the guest from the YMCA. So it should be a great program. And I will see you next week. We have our third Wednesday of the month, which will be our Diabetes Dialogue segment. So we will be back next week. Enjoy.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided